which is sticks and stones can cause broken bones. And we have to fill in a couple of implicit premises. 2, broken bones are an example of harm. 3, spoken words like mean names or insults cannot cause that kind of bodily injury. So, is this a good argument? Since it's often uttered with tears in the eyes by those who have actually incurred harm from spoken words, surely there's a problem here. All right, but what is it? It's a curious version of faulty analogy. In this case, what we have is not a flawed analogy, but rather a flawed disanalogy. That is, we're working from a disanalogy between being beaten with hard objects and being insulted. One causes broken bones, which hurt, and the other psychological distress, which also hurts. So, the disanalogy fails, as there actually is a working structural analogy. When we see what parts of the brain fires, for example, when slapped in the face literally and figuratively with an insult, we see some of the same internal mechanisms at work. The disanalogy fails in the same way the analogy in our earlier examples of the fallacy failed. Okay, one more. New finish is not a wax. It's a space-age polymer formula. This, some may recognize, comes from a commercial from a few decades back. Clearly the conclusion is that you should buy New Finish instead of car wax. The premise here, New Finish is a space-age polymer formula, where car wax is just wax. The implicit premise is polymers are better than wax because they are space-age material, and 3, you should purchase the superior product. Clearly, we have in premise 2 an example of the fallacy of novelty. Is the polymer better than wax? Well, it is space-age, that is modern, newfangled, technologically advanced, and so we are told it's better. Is new better? Is old better? Should we follow the crowd or listen to experts? Always remember that it depends on the argument.
You're listening to the Great Courses Radio. I'm Ed Leon. My guest is Stephen Gimbel, professor of philosophy at Gettysburg College. We're talking about the different types of arguments. At some point, we have to take a leap of, is there such a thing as a leap of logic?
Oh,
I mean, bringing it back to logic, right? So where do we take that leap?
So we have 2 kinds of arguments. We have deductive arguments, in which the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises, right? If all men are mortal and Socrates is one of those guys, we know that Socrates is mortal. On the other hand, an inductive argument is an argument that goes beyond its premises. That is, we say, okay, this is true of these first 36 cases, therefore it will be true of all cases, or of the next case. So what we see in cases like this is absolutely an inductive leap, but that doesn't mean there isn't good reason to believe. If we're playing poker and you suddenly just happen to get 4 of a kind 5 times in a row, it seems like I have good reason to worry about your veracity.
Yeah. Now, what is fuzzy logic and what is 3-value logic?
Okay, these are some of the more modern advances in logical reasoning. Classically, we think that all sentences have one of 2 truth values. Every sentence is either true or false. But logicians have found that there were certain cases in which we want to talk about sentences having a value that's neither true nor false. So one example is modern quantum mechanics, where you will have properties that may be either up, down, or unknowable. So in this case, what we're looking at is a situation in which we need more than 2 truth values. And these are sort of strange, peculiar ones. But then we realized we could go from 3 truth values. Well, if 3, why not 4? Why not 5? Why not instead make it an absolutely smooth transition, with true and false being the endpoints, and some degree of truthiness in between?
Yeah.
That's where fuzzy logic comes in, where truth and falsity are no longer discrete values, but that there is a smooth transition where we could say something is half true. So think of, the weather. When we say there's a 50% chance of rain, that is, if you say it's going to rain, that's in essence half true.
What's a truth table?
Oh, a truth table. So a truth table is a way of determining the truth conditions of a sentence. So if I say, you're wearing pants and I'm wearing pants, the question is, what would have to be true in the world for that sentence to be true? And I could come up with a much more complex sentence. If you're wearing pants and I'm wearing pants, then it must be the case that it is far too warm in this room. So what would make that sentence true? So what we're able to do with a truth table is break down complex sentences into its smallest bits and determine what would have to be the case in reality for that sentence to be true.
Okay, what are we going to learn in this course? What do you want people to get so psyched up about? Because this is practical mastery, right? We're going to learn to do it with you.
What it is it's intellectual self-defense.
Yeah.
Every day you have people all around you trying to convince you of something. And the question is, when should you believe what they're telling you? Now, it's not the case that we should always be skeptical of everything. There is good reason to believe lots of things in this world. So what logic will do is help you make your thinking much more rigorous and decide when you do or don't have reasons to believe the things people are trying to get.
And we are wired to be optimistic.
Oh, we are wired to be far too optimistic. That's why we play the lottery. If you buy a lotto ticket and rationally, there's a virtually 0% chance that you're going to win, but you see it and you start thinking, what would I do with all of that money? And we're wired in such a way that because we can see it so clearly in our head what we would do, we believe it's more likely to come to pass than it actually is.
So is this kind of thinking unnatural to some respect?
Yeah, the answer is yes and no. It is unnatural in that it's keeping us from falling into these natural biases, these natural logical traps that we're prone to fall into.
Why are we wired that way? Does anybody answer that question?
It's an evolution. It's an evolutionary advantage.
Yeah.
That is.
Otherwise, world would be too depressing.
Exactly. You walk. I know I'm going to get eaten by that saber-tooth tiger, and then you do, and then you don't. So the ones who survived were the ones who thought they could escape, and some of them did.
Very logical and very entertaining. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Steve Gimbel earned his PhD in philosophy from Johns Hopkins. He teaches at Gettysburg College and serves as the chair of the philosophy department. You can watch his entire course, An Introduction to Formal Logic, for free on our new video streaming service, The Great Courses Plus. Just go to thegreatcoursesplus.com/SiriusXM and sign up for a free 30-day trial.
It's Masters Week on SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio.
Jordan Spieth has won the 2015 Masters.
Get unprecedented access to the archives of Augusta National, plus over 80 hours of live programming, including hosts Hale Irwin, Dave Stockton, Mark Calcavecchia, and can't miss shows from Masters champions Larry Mize, Ben Crenshaw, and Craig Stadler. All day coverage starts at 9 a.m. Eastern.